Do you think we're going to get a black James Bond then?
No. If you're known, you're a safe pair of hands, you're known by certain people, you're just going to get hired all the time. Does that mean you're the best person for the job? Not necessarily.
Today's guest is an EVP of formats at indie powerhouse All3media, Nick Smith. Let's start from the beginning. How do you get into the industry? Where did it all start?
So my story, I can't remember exactly when I decided I wanted to be in TV, but sometime as a teenager, I knew that I was obsessed with TV. So after I left school, went to college and did a media studies A-levels, part of my A-levels. I'm not sure there was much point in doing that, but I enjoyed it anyway. You know, then when the editing, it was like, what do you call it, the editing when it wasn't non-video editing, you know, but we got the dials.
What are you talking about? Not film editing, the steam deck, cut and slice?
No.
Oh, sorry, because that ages you too much, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you know, I'm only 28. What's it called? Where you have the dials and you were actually like you were controlling the video machines.
I know what you're on about, but I can't. Forgive me, I don't remember the name.
It's gone from me as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, then I went to uni. I studied broadcasting at uni, and whilst I was there, I set up a student TV station, and that probably cost me my getting a first, because that was it. I dedicated my time to that, and I guess that was the start of me doing stuff not just typically TV production. Like, so I had, because no one else wanted to do it, everyone wanted to make the shows, nobody wanted to kind of organize everything behind it. So I was the one that kind of went out and got the funding. I was even involved in cabling the TVs all around the university building. I was managing everything. So I lived and breathed that at university. That was me. And then in my final year of uni, there was, we had to either write a dissertation or go and do a work placement. So obviously I wasn't going to write a dissertation. And so they had work placements, 3-month work placements lined up with various companies like RDF, etc. Everyone wanted to go to RDF. They were the kind of sexy company at the time. And I just didn't fancy it. It just didn't sound exciting to me to go and, work on Wife Swap or whatever it was they were making at the time. And I wanted to find my own placement. And I wrote to loads of different companies thinking they were all going to be really happy to take me on because I was,
basically young, gifted and black.
Pretty much, yeah. And free, more importantly. I was going to come and work for them for 3 months for free, and no one replied. I still remember, I'm not going to name the companies, but I still remember those companies to this day, the companies that I thought I wanted to work for. And I had a friend who had been in the year above me at uni, and he had broken in at the BBC. He was a runner at the entertainment department at the BBC in development, which sounded quite interesting to me. And he got me in because he didn't want to make the teas and coffees anymore. So he wanted to have a little kind of,
bit more power.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he got to do more exciting stuff, and I was happy to come in and make the teas and coffees. And yeah, that's how I kind of got in. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No, it's totally perfect. So clearly you got the grounding. You got everything in terms of like, you paid your dues. So what are you doing now? What's your role now?
My official title is EVP of Formats and Licensing at All3media International.
Ooh, okay. EVP. What does EVP stand for?
Like you don't know.
No, I
don't. Executive Vice President. It's more of an American title. It's kind of like, I guess those EVP, VP, SVP, they're kind of titles that are used more in America than the UK, but yeah.
So basically, in layman's terms, it's a big deal.
You could say that. I don't know. Like, I'm not comfortable saying that I'm a big deal. That sounds weird to say that. Yeah. But
Okay. Let's put it a different way then. When you went home, when you got the job, what did you tell your mom or your family, your friends?
Do you know? I don't really even talk about it like that. When people ask me what I do, I kind of say I work in the TV industry, and then they go, okay, what do you do in the TV industry? Or if someone that's in the industry kind of goes, oh yeah, what do you do? Then I just kind of explain that, I work with foreign broadcasters. I help them make versions of my company shows around the world. I never really get into the whole job title thing. I don't know.
We know, big deal in industry. What's the average day like for you then?
I think that's the thing I like about my job. I don't really have an average day. So, for example, last week I was at a trade show, a licensing trade show, which is something that's a little bit new for me, which I'm finding really interesting. So, we've always been at All3media, I guess, more reactive in terms of licensing, and by licensing I mean the brands that we own. There are companies out there that might want to produce T-shirts, bedding, board games, etc., based on the TV shows the IP that we own, and we've kind of really we've been reactive. People have come to us, and then we've done deals, and now we've started to and it's a department that I've set up that now we're actively going out there and searching for licensees, people to take on the shows that we produce and make products or brand their products with our shows. So that's really interesting.
Okay, so I think it's time. Let's go into the shows that you've worked on. That you're okay. Let's say, what's your biggest achievement to date then?
My personal biggest achievement to date.
So let's do the personal, and then let's go one industry wise.
Okay. Like some of the things that I've done, I think personally, I would put the student TV station up there, to launch a TV station and to get funding for it and all of that kind of stuff. For me, there's not many people that have done that. I know it was really at the early stage of my career, but I'm really proud of that. I guess another thing is I came up with the idea to set up an awards award show which is called the Diversify TV Awards.
Right.
And the idea behind that is to recognize people that are making shows that are representing minorities in, I don't want to say in a good light, but representing them properly, authentically. And I think one of the key things for me, it's an award show. I'm a bit skeptical about award shows and awards because I've been on a number of award panels now. I kind of know how these things work. And, oftentimes it's people in the TV industry judging and they're patting their friends on the back. So what I wanted to do with this was to actually have the people that were deciding who wins the awards to be organizations and charities that work with, whether it's with black and ethnic minority organizations, whether it's disability organizations, those type of people, the ones that are dealing with people that have are being discriminated against, and they spend their life kind of advocating for these minority groups, for them to judge the shows and to see whether they thought the shows were good and if they were authentic. And so that was like that's now in the 7th year of running. So quite proud of that.
Okay, that's interesting. I like how you use the sort of, in terms of the term, not having an award show where people's just their friends patting themselves on the back. So obviously you're highly successful. Are you saying that the award shows that we do have now are rigged?
I'm not sure I'd use the word rigged. I'd maybe use the word, look, there's so much content out there. You can't watch it all. So are things getting overlooked? Of course they are. I think it's a little bit like the industry in general, just like how people get jobs. Okay, like if you're known, you're a safe pair of hands, you're known by certain people, you're just going to get hired all the time. Does that mean you're the best person for the job? Not necessarily. There could be somebody out there that's a lot better, just not really getting the opportunities. And I think the same thing can happen with content. If you're not buzzworthy, if it's not being made by people that know, and it's not getting talked about in the newspapers, in the mainstream radio shows, etc., then I think things can miss out. So I don't know, like I'm not as, it's great to win awards And if I win an award, then it's obviously a fair process, and I'm really happy about it. But when other people win awards, then it's all rigged. No, I mean, I don't know.
Cool. So
I just
let's
take it with a pinch of salt. Is basically what I'm saying.
Well, let's move forward to one of your current sort of shows that you're working on. Traitors. Has that won any awards?
It's won plenty. Yeah, it's won a BAFTA. It's won a Rose d'Or. Yeah, it's won an RTS. So yeah, it's winning awards left, right, and center.
Okay. Now I've watched Traitors and I thought it was fantastic. I was totally gripped. And the thing for me was what sort of I loved about the show was the characters. So first, I've got two questions. How did the show come about to you guys? And then how did you do the casting for that?
Sure. So it's actually originally created by a Dutch company. They're part of the All3media group. They've been talking to me about this idea for 6-7 years. It's actually, they got the idea based on a book, a true story of people on a ship going on the way to Australia. And anyway, there was a big mutiny. And you didn't know who to trust, who was on which side. So somebody came up to you and said, are you a traitor or not? You got to think about your answer, because you got to say you're on the same side as they are, because otherwise you're dead. So that was kind of their idea behind it. And, it went through various development stages. It was called the Mutineers at one stage. It was set on a boat at one stage, blah, blah, blah. Then they got it up to it being set in a castle and being called the Traitors. And yeah, in 2021, it launched in the Netherlands. It was pretty successful. It was very successful there, actually. And so then that was when my role really kicked in, of taking that from the Netherlands to countries all around the world, including the UK. So that's where it started. I think your second question was, how did the casting happen? Yeah, it's actually interesting. The Dutch original, the cast were all celebrities, and the first few versions we did after that, we went to France, went to Belgium. They were all celebrity cast as well. And then UK and Australia, both around the same time, wanted to do with civilian casts. And I think the Traitors gives you the opportunity to have a really interesting cast. I think if you remember original Big Brother days,
yes,
the casting then was a bit more interesting, because they wanted to have all different walks of life. And then as we've got used to reality TV, it's been, let's just put in people that are going to fight with each other, or that all look good, so there's people going to hook up on TV. And actually, because there's such a good format and gameplay to the Traitors, there's a reason to have, again, all different walks of life, and you don't have to worry so much about, they all need to be good looking and 25 and have six packs. So I think that the format allows you to cast in a more interesting way. And I know you're talking more about the UK show, but I'm just thinking about the Australian show. They cast a retired detective. They cast a guy who had been not a prisoner of war, but he'd been captive for many years. So they cast really interesting. They cast a lawyer. They cast a clairvoyant. They cast really interesting people to play that game, and I think that was fascinating. The UK cast, I think, was fantastic, and it was maybe just a bit more the kind of people you don't see on reality TV anymore.
Do you think the UK cast was more relatable then?
Definitely. I think there's somebody on that cast. I mean, there was 22 contestants as well. There was somebody that everybody could kind of go, yeah, I know someone like them, or I'm a bit like them. So yeah.
I remember when I watched it for the first time, and I think it was the first episode, and I can't remember what question was asked, and everyone was playing coy, and then two of the guys went and said, who do you think's going to be the best at this show or whatever? And two guys seemed like they were cocky. There's quite, no problem. We'll go to the end. And then all of a sudden the presenter just said, okay, you two, you're going home. And I was like, no. So was that always planned, or was that something what just came up, just spur of the moment, just said, you know what, let's just get rid of them?
Yeah, no, it was a plan. Just to kind of show from the start that this is a show where there's lots of twists and turns, and you can never be too sure what's going to happen. and the second season's just been filmed now, and obviously that same twist is not there because people will be expecting it now, but there's plenty of other twists and turns that make it not feel like a typical reality show that you kind of know what's going to happen. You're always kind of on the edge of your seat.
Cool. So in terms of, why do you think the show was so successful in the UK?
I think there's a few reasons. I think one, I think it caught people's attention because it looked different. You know, you're in a castle, you've got people wearing hoods and traitors, you know, walking, and you keep language like traitors and murders and faithful. I think that maybe got people's interest from the start. I also think it breaks a few rules. You know, we got into a trend with TV of guessing shows, you know, Masked Singer, those type of shows, you know, who's behind the mask. And with this, the audience are told from the start, these people are traitors. You know who the traitors are. That kind of goes against the rules. But actually, it's fascinating for the audience to kind of be in on something that the players themselves are not in on. And what the audience don't know is who's going to be murdered, and who's going to be banished. So you still got that stuff that you're tuning in for the drama and to see what happens. But I think that's the big thing, is that rather than, oh, we're guessing, no, we're in on it, and so we can play along. I think that's a real key thing to it working.
Cool. So I just want to go back to the development process. So Dutch company, they made the show, they made it with celebrities, and then it was time for you to sort of make it for the UK. How was you, in terms of the development process, how was you, like in terms of the hoods, the whole thing with the hoods, like looking sort of occultish type sort of thing? How were these ideas, how was that brainstorming? How did that work? Was you all just sitting in a room and just said, you know, I got an idea, let's make them look like the Freemasons or the Templars or something like that?
So the hoods were in the original Dutch version. So every version has kind of the traitors wearing these hoods. And I think it's just those kind of production decisions really help make the show, because it makes it stand out. Would the game work if they didn't wear hoods? Do they need to wear hoods for any reason? Not really. But it gives it a distinct visual look and a lot of fun. So yeah, I think it's only a positive.
No, I enjoyed the hoods sort of thing. My only question is, did you get any cease and assist from the Templars or the Freemasons?
Not that I'm aware of as of yet, no.
Cool, perfect. So in terms of, I just still want to still touch on sort of the Traitors. How, in terms of the development, because I really do think that's key to the show's success. How was it? How many people was in the room? How did you come up with the ideas? Was it just like someone's on a board just writing? What did that look like?
So, well, the original development, as I mentioned, kind of went over 6 or 7 years, and so there was people that believed in the idea, have been pitching it for a while, had never got a hard no, but never got it to a stage where a broadcaster said yes. But they kept looking at what were the things that the broadcaster was struggling with, and trying to, you know, make those tweaks to get it work, to get the broadcaster comfortable with the idea. So, and actually the way that it ended up getting made was they kind of made a pilot. They got the commissioning team from the channel to play, and they sat them around and they did a round table, and they made some people traitors beforehand, and people were getting murdered, and they're having discussions. They were just trying to decide who was the one that was murdering somebody each time, and they got into it, and they could see why it would make, you know, fascinating TV.
Okay, so that's interesting, because initially when I was watching at home, that was one of the things you think, how the hell do you convince someone like yourself that this show actually works? Playing it, I could understand. So yeah, as a participant, you can see the enjoyment from it. But as a TV spectacle, as an audience viewer, am I going to get it? And that was one of the things. And that's why I'm really interested in terms of how did they sell that concept to you guys?
I mean, I think it's always a challenge, isn't there? especially with a type of show idea that's quite unique and not like anything out there, to kind of get across how much fun or how engaging it's going to be. Because for me, the most critical part of the Traitors is the round table where they're all sitting around and they're accusing each other, and there's tears and there's anger and there's a lot of emotion. When you're explaining the show, you're not imagining that until you see it. I think it's like another one of our shows, Gogglebox. When you try and explain, you try and pitch that idea. Oh, we're just going to take we're just going to have a show which shows families watching TV. It doesn't sound great, so you have to kind of get it on tape. You have to kind of go out and do a little proof of concept or pilot to show how fun and the types of people that you're going to get on. That's how that show got away, that they were able to convince the broadcaster that get them interested enough to give them a bit of money so they could go out and make a little taster. Yeah.
So for the people out there, even myself, to get your attention, is it something that I need to get something? Would it be something I need to do a taster tape? Or is it advised, would you just say, get it down on paper first, pitch me the idea, get your little elevator pitch, or...
So, I mean, for me personally, I tend to only deal with shows that, if they're not already commissioned, they've at least got broadcaster interest. So the last couple of things that we've picked up have been things that a producer has got in with. The last couple of things were in with ITV, and ITV, they got ITV interested enough that they said, okay, we're going to give you a bit of money for a proof of concept. And they needed a bit more money to do the proof of concept justice. So they came and pitched, and we're like, yeah, okay, we can see that. We'll put some money in, and we hope that ITV pick it up. If ITV pick it up, that makes it easier for us to sell it around the world. If they don't pick it up, it makes it a lot more challenging, because basically most of the stuff that I'm dealing with is stuff that's being produced. But we've managed to take some shows that. We had a show called Date or Drop, which was piloted for the BBC. In the end, the BBC decided against going ahead with it. But I took it to Germany, got a German broadcaster to believe in it, and they've made 2 series so far. So we can do it, but it's a lot harder. So generally, I'm looking for something that's already got some traction from a broadcaster. But if you're asking me what I think you need to do to get traction from a broadcaster, I don't think you need to spend a lot, but you need to have something to kind of catch their eye,
right,
and get them intrigued, to give you a bit of money so that you can prove that it can work. Whether that is something that's cut together from found footage, you cut a sizzle together from found footage to give an idea of the idea of your format. Whether it's I was part of the BBC development team back in the day when we created Strictly Come Dancing, and the way that was pitched, they had the commissioners in the room and they brought in dancers, and the dancers just kind of started doing tango, whatever it was, in the room to kind of get the vibe and get them interested in going, wouldn't that be funny to see, I don't know, Les Dennis, name a celebrity, learning to do that? Wouldn't you want to see that? And that is enough to get them interested.
Okay, cool.
I think you always need a little bit of a stump. What's your hook? You've always got to go in and kind of say, this is new, or this is why. You've got to say, why should you be doing this? Because everyone's being pitched hundreds of shows every month. So why does yours stand out?
So let's look at, in terms of where the TV industry and sort of content creation industry is moving to now. What's your sort of take on artificial intelligence within the industry?
Yeah, it's kind of scary, isn't it? Artificial intelligence, the stuff that can be done. I went to a talk a few years ago, before ChatGPT was even kind of known about, and this guy, I guess, who was an expert in stuff, he started saying that he must have been looking at early developments of ChatGPT and what the other kind of software that was out there, and he was going, oh yeah, you can just instruct a computer to draw something or make a video, and he was showing this stuff, and I was like, that's not possible. How can that be possible? And like now, like everyone, it's scary how what can be achieved. But it's also exciting.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, it feels like it could be as big as AI could be as big as the internet. And you think how the internet has changed things. Because unfortunately, both of us are old enough to remember before we had the internet, and at least before we had the internet on our phones, so that we had emails on our hands all the time, and WhatsApp, and all these things that have affected how you make TV so much and how TV is consumed. I'm not sure I know all the ways that AI will affect it, but you can see that it's going to be such a disruptor.
Okay. So that said, is AI a friend or a foe?
I think we have to look at it as a friend. If you ask the same question, is the internet a friend or a foe? Like, the positives, I think, outweigh the negatives over the course of the internet's been around. And I think that's the same thing with AI, that it will make things so much quicker. It will allow you to be able to do things that we can't currently do. So, and I'm sure there'll be some threats from it as well. I'm not sure it's going to be something that's going to take all of our jobs. I think there will be people that will need to be able to. I think there will be a whole new heap of jobs that people that are know how to use AI and to get what you need from AI.
No, I totally agree. I look at it as we've opened Pandora's box. It's here to stay. We can't fight it. So surely it's in our interest to look at practices in terms of how to work alongside of it. However, but I do understand some people's concerns. Obviously, certain writers, actors, in terms of like their likeness, because the contracts, what's being done now, from my understanding, is like if an extra, let's just say an extra, can get they go on set, they can get their whole body, face, and everything scanned, and the contract that we have to sign is for life. So if they want to do a part 2 to this film, they don't even have to bring the actor back in. They can just use his likeness within the said series part 2, and there's no compensation. So I can see the negatives from that standpoint.
But that's all about regulation, isn't it?
Yes.
That's about how things are used. I mean, CGI already, for you can create and do pretty much anything in CGI. The reason why people don't do it so much, like you could create me in CGI and it would be pretty realistic, but the amount of money that would cost you to do that, it's just easier to have me come here and sit here. Yeah. It might be cheaper to do it in AI, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. So I think it's about the regulations to make things fair so that people are compensated properly.
So no, that's definitely interesting. I do like that. And the thing is the regulation going to catch up quick enough? And at whose expense?
Well, I think that's what all the strikes in the US, that's a big part of what they've been about, hasn't it? And that's why writers and actors, because they can see the threat of AI to them if it's not regulated properly. And if suddenly you can put every script that's ever been written into AI, and then AI can just churn out scripts where it doesn't even need a human editor, or it needs one person just to do a little bit of tidying up, and you've lost the writer's room. Yeah. That's a bit of a problem. And I think, you've just got to be careful. You can't just take somebody's hard-earned work and then just churn that into a computer and then let them use that to create stuff. There needs to be some. So it's about regulation. It's about, if you're going to use people's work, they've got to be compensated fairly.
So we're going very much in the world of everything's very much digital as it is. Do you see a time whereby the audience are just going to get bored of it and just actually go back hop to a time where movies were just movies? They don't need all these digital special effects in there. Just tell human-based stories.
I mean, I'm already kind of like that. I'm I feel like I'm one of the only people that doesn't give a damn about Marvel movies coming out, because the special effects don't do anything for me. I'm all about storylines. So a good story for me doesn't need, like, sure, if the story warrants it, great CGI, brilliant. Like I can enjoy it if it's meant to be there. Like I love Game of Thrones, but for me, Game of Thrones, it's just got amazing story. So some of the CGI that's in there, which is just fantastic, it just enhances what is a great story. But I've seen so many great CGI effects in movies that have been terrible. I've got no interest in watching good effects in bad films. So yeah, I feel like for me that's already there. It doesn't need to be. And you look at like some of the stuff that's getting millions of hits on YouTube, it's quite basic productions.
Yeah.
So I'm not. For me, story is always key.
Yeah, because I do believe the art of storytelling is dying, and now a lot of the content that I'm seeing is not about the art of storytelling. It's the art of gaining and keeping one's attention. So if I can bamboozle the audience with as much whiz bangs and flashes or something to keep me interested, that's what a lot of content makers are doing. And I do believe that they are missing the element of creating good stories to get that to engage with people. Because there's a lot of films and TV shows that I've watched recently, and I can't even tell you what the film's about or the TV show's about. But if I look at back some of the sort of classic films that I enjoyed, I can recite what the story is about, the themes, the messaging in there. And that was because it focused on good storytelling. And I do think we are in an age of, let me see, how can I put this? This is now towards the industry. And this is my sort of rant towards the industry. Stop making shows or stop making content whereby there's no, the story is not the focus. If your focus is only going to be about the effects and how much it can keep one's attention, it's wasting my time. It kills me.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about talent as well. You know, whoever it is, whether you're talking about for TV, Ant and Dec, or you're talking about, you know, for film, whether that's Brad Pitt or whoever's kind of the hottest person at the moment. TV and film companies they know that these people are hot and these are going to sell tickets. And sometimes if they want to do something, I see it maybe less in the UK. I was just talking to an Italian broadcast the other day, and I was saying, "Oh, what are your new shows?" And he said, "Oh, we've got a new show with," mentioned the star's name. It's not very good, but the star wants to do it, and they've got an exclusive contract, and you have to keep that star happy. And they know that people will come and watch the show because it's got this big star in it.
Right.
So I think it's the same thing with, you know, sometimes with the CGI or just things that are stunts that will get attention that maybe there's not been enough time thought about in the story, but there's been more time thought about the marketing and what's going to make an impact on people. But it is a business at the end of the day, so I guess they will make decisions that are they think are going to be commercially successful. But for me, I think if you always bet on a good story, you'll come off in the end, because, you know, some of these big films and these things that made a splash at the time, nobody's talking about them or watching them in 10 years. But there are films that are 40 years old that are still, you know, getting shown in the cinema on, you know, that people still want to see in the cinema. They're still getting broadcast on the TV all the time, that Netflix and the SVODs are paying huge sums of money to have on their service because people want to watch them because they're that good. So
basically, you're saying that I'm being naive. I should focus on the business.
Not at all. I'm saying story is king, and that will come out in the end. But if you can also get a bit of a hook to get people into it. But I think if something's good, eventually it will be found. There's so many movies that when they first came out, they weren't successful, and then they became kind of cult classics and became big movies as time went on.
Okay, so from when you came into the industry, have you seen a significant change in terms of how people of color have been represented on TV in the UK?
Yeah, I think I have. And by that, I'm not saying it's perfect, because it's nowhere near from being perfect. But I feel there's pockets of really good shows, whether it's things like I May Destroy You, which, you know, I loved. Insecure. There are shows that you kind of feel like I'm really proud of that show and the way that black people are depicted within the show. I think there just needs to be more people of color in positions of power. That's how things improve. And I think there are more now. There's still not enough. And there's still never been a channel controller in the UK that's been black.
Right.
So that is something that needs to change.
So do you think, because I've met certain people in power and they've happened to be black. I've had meetings with them and we've had discussions in terms of certain types of programming. In fact, I'm going to bring you one example. Very bizarre. I'm not going to say which channel or who it was, but we had a meeting and it was all about, in terms of, we was a black production company and they was talking about how great it was, how great TV is at this moment in time in terms of the variety of shows that we had. And every show, I like to list the names of shows, what you thought was amazing. And every show that was either murder, kill, drug, or gangster. And I thought, is it me or doesn't get it? So even if we get more black people, and don't get me wrong, I do believe we do need more black people in certain positions, but I also believe that you have to get the right black people in positions, because I've met a few and their objectives seems to be, if not as bad as certain people who have bad agendas against certain communities, or even worse. It seems like they're there as sort of agent provocateurs, and they're just there as a face, but they're instructing even more sort of draconian sort of policies.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be the case. I mean, like, without being too political, I mean, you just got to look at the current government, that there are people in the government who have, brown skin that are coming up with policies that are worse than anyone with white skin has come up with in recent years. So what's the saying? Your skin folk are not always your kinfolk.
There you go.
But I would say in TV, from my experience, it's more been about, I think sometimes, and I found it to be generally well-meaning, I think, from what I could perceive, white executives of power wanting to put black people on TV, but what they think their perception of black people and what black people might want and is quite different from the reality. And like, I remember when I first started at the BBC, they were doing one of the Africa season, and I was in a room, and I don't even think I was meant to be in the room. I think I was just delivering tea and coffee into the room, and they were talking about an idea which was just so full of stereotypes. And I know that this is black woman who's sent from Africa by her family for a better life in the UK, and she wants to say thank you to. And it was just like, and I was just kind of going, and I put the teas down. I went, "Do you understand how bad this sounds?" Do you, blah, 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 and I just broke it down, and there was silence in the room, and I was like, "Oh I think I've just lost my job." And so I went out, and then that idea, I never heard anything of it again, because I think they all just went, "Oh, I never thought of it like that," and right. It was done. There was a sitcom, again, when I was back at the BBC years ago, called The Crouches. Don't know if you remember that.
I remember The Crouches, yes.
A black family sitcom created by a white writer. Now, can a white writer write black people? Yes, because I think they can, because a black person can write white people. There's not a problem with that. But the issue is, you've got your first ever or a rare black sitcom on in the UK, and you're having a white guy write it. Black people aren't really represented on TV. That's a bit of a problem. And he misses all the nuances. Black people can probably write white people better because we're around white people all the time. How much time has this white writer spent with black families and ideas of black culture? So I think it can be well-meaning that he's come in with this pitch and they've gone, all right, he's an established comedy writer, great.
Right.
And he's got this idea that's for a black family. Oh, that's really good. We haven't had a black family. And so they're all thinking the positives and not realizing there that actually they may be doing more harm than good in that situation.
Is it because they're not close to the culture? Because, like, as you were saying, it's probably easier for people in the UK, black writers, to write white characters because we have more awareness of white culture because we live it. And a lot of white people don't have the experience of black culture. They seem like white people get their culture of what black people are from TV and music videos.
100%. And I think there's just a bit of arrogance and naivety. Like, I do not think I could write a good series about a Muslim family without doing a lot of research, because I realize, like, what I know, I'm not Muslim. I have some friends that are Muslim, but like, I'm not deep in their lives. I would need to do that research. And I think there can be that arrogance to think, oh yeah, I know enough about, whatever this minority background is, I can do it. And I think if you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to kind of go and meet people and, study, then sure, you can do it. But if you just think, oh, it's fine, it's just like, there's no difference to it. Like, I think I would probably do a decent job because I would realize that I don't know enough about Muslim culture, so I need to immerse myself in it. So I would kind of get in there. But I think if you can kind of go, oh, it's fine, it's just like writing any other character, that maybe some white writers would have that impression. That's the problem. Like Top Boy, I know that there's maybe some controversy about the type of content that's in there, but it was created by a white man.
Yeah.
And I think it's well documented how much research that he did on gangs and slang. And so whether you feel that kind of content should be out there or not, at least you feel that it doesn't, people aren't kind of saying that it's inaccurate in terms of what it's depicting.
See, that's interesting. Do you think that the majority of the audience actually knows that it was written by a white guy? And if they did, would they perceive the show to be in a different way?
I don't know. I mean, it was well reported when Top Boy originally came out back on Channel 4 back in the day. But, since the whole reboot and with Drake and Netflix, I think probably it's not well known. And I'm sure the guy that created it doesn't write all the episodes. I'm sure there's black writers involved. So probably people aren't aware of it. Would it change things? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So, just being devil's advocate, why is Top Boy accepted I'm just going to talk about the black community. Why is Top Boy accepted as a good show within the black community, written when it's been created by a white guy? However, The Crouches was written by a white guy and is not accepted.
I can speak for me personally. I can't really speak for the community, but my thoughts would be because there was some reverence paid in terms of, like, I find the writer of the creator of Top Boy thought, I find this world interesting, so let me delve into it. Let me do the research so that I can create something and it didn't feel that it was inauthentic. Whereas the writer of The Crouches thought, I want a commission. Like having a black family would be interesting, would help me get a commission. And you could see that didn't really know much about. It was just full of stereotypes. The dad works for London Transport, all this kind of stuff. And it was like,
Okay, no, I get it. So it's all about sort of, as long as the authenticity is real, then it's got a better chance of being accepted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel that white people shouldn't be able to write black characters at all, but it's an issue if black writers never get the opportunity to write black characters or white characters. So if it's only white writers, that's a problem. It doesn't matter how authentic or good your script is. If there's never a black writer writing anything, then we're going to have an issue with that. But I don't think there's an issue with white writers writing black characters, but they just need to just think a little bit about race when they're writing, and not just think about script, and not really think about the characters and what their race means. How many police shows have we seen where they put it's normally a minor character, but as a police detective or something like that, and there's never a hint of racism that they encounter either within the police or when they're doing their job. And if you speak to any black police officer, they'll tell you about, you know, the racism they encounter both inside the force and outside the force. You can't just gloss over that in and like, it feels like every TV cop show has got a black detective.
Right.
And it's never talked about.
So that said then, do you think we're going to get a black James Bond then?
No.
Why is that?
Commercially wise, I think James Bond is still such a successful franchise that they wouldn't risk doing anything that would rock the boat. There's a I don't know how big percentage of the population are that would not accept at this stage in time a black James Bond and would boycott the series. So I think they would
We're in a time of the Prime Minister's a man of colour, he's Indian.
Yeah, but there would be a lot of people just going, "Oh, this is woke. James Bond's always been white." You've already, even just the debate about the fact that there is a debate about whether the next James Bond is black or white, shows that there's people that are not ready for it. So I think they'll only do that when the James Bond franchise is struggling. So let's say the next James Bond comes in and the movies don't go well and everyone's kind of feeling like James Bond is done with. That's when they'll kind of go with the Idris or whoever's the new Idris then, because it will get attention and publicity. Right now, whoever they choose as James Bond, it's still going to get picked up in the press and be excited because James Bond's still hot. So my guess is no, but I'd be happy to be proved wrong.
So based on everything that we've discussed and the sort of topics that we've gone over, are you optimistic for the future of content on TV, online, for representation, let's say?
Yeah, I am. I think just it's never been more achievable for people to be able to make their own content and to distribute that content. Cameras are cheaper. Everybody's got a video camera now in their pocket that can take good quality video. And everybody has a means to get that video shared with millions of people on the internet, YouTube, Instagram, name your platform. So we've seen that with the rise of influencers already, that the influencers, some of the biggest influencers in the world don't look like some of the biggest celebrities in the world, because people actually want to see people that they relate to more, that are a bit more authentic to their journey. So I think that's shown that maybe TV, film hasn't done the greatest job of the stories and the people that they've featured, because if somebody with like a phone can get millions of people wanting to listen to them in their bedroom talking about whatever they want to talk about, that shows that, you know, with millions of pounds and being able to pick whoever you want to be in front of the camera, and people are choosing to watch someone in their bedroom, then the industry must have got something wrong.
Yeah. With that then, I don't know if in terms of your sort of circles, in terms of higher management in the business, do you look at the internet as a threat?
I mean, personally, I choose to look at it as an opportunity. Maybe some people look at it as a threat, but I think any kind of new technology is both a threat and an opportunity, like AI, as we talked about earlier. But there are so many benefits from the internet, the way that you can reach fans of your content directly. that you can make more money. You make your show, and then you can make money from clips or even full episodes of that being on the internet for a long time to come. So yeah, there's threats, there's opportunities.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it. I remember looking at a magazine, and it was an old article, and they was talking about some of the most successful shows back in the day, and they were talking about EastEnders, Coronation Street, and they was getting like 15, 18 million viewers a week. I'm sure I saw EastEnders now. I don't even know if it gets even 3 million. Like, that's a dramatic drop. How much reduction in audience can TV accept?
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge reduction from. I mean, look, when I was going to school, when we were going to school, because you're older than me, even though you don't look it annoyingly. We come into school and we'd be talking about the same shows because there were 4 channels, and so the chances are you would have watched the same thing. And okay, we might have had video recorders, but really we're watching stuff live. That has gone because there's so much choice, there's so many channels now, but also it's about the VOD platform, so people are watching things at different times. So I don't think you're ever going to get this. It's never going to go back to people other than for real special things, World Cup final, I don't know, death of someone in the royal family. Not that that's something that I personally would tune in for, but the whole nation is interested in and want to watch. So I'm trying to remember what your question was now. Like, can we keep accepting the reduction? Well,
How can we sustain it? How is the business model going to sustain that reduction with the competition? As you said, that when you was in university, you created your own channel at the university. Now with the advent of how the internet has progressed, and as you said, people who's just talking directly to the camera, younger audiences are quite happy to watch them with their low production value, as even though we got high production value here. We like to think so anyway. Why would we? Some people may even like to watch half an hour of us chatting compared to a show what costs a few £100,000.
Well, I mean, I think like the majority of the industry is funded by commercials.
Right.
And I think brands will always be wary of putting their name across and around content creators who, as we've seen so often, they can be flying so high and then a video is released or they say something wrong and they're cancelled, and a brand doesn't want to be associated with that. So there is a lot of trust that if you're putting your name next to an ITV drama.
Yeah, but come on, let's talk about Jimmy Savile. Let's talk about the scandals, some of these channels. If brands are actually going to be thinking, I can't put my money into an individual, then they have to look at the institutions in terms of the scandals they've had. So
yeah, I just don't think that. I think the brands are worried about what consumers make of things, and I don't think consumers are blaming the broadcasters for. I don't think the consumers are blaming Channel 4 for Russell Brand. I don't think we're never going to watch Channel 4 again because they had Russell Brand on TV. I don't think they're doing that. Again, the same way, I don't think if someone gets cancelled off YouTube or Instagram, I don't think people are going, I'm not going to watch YouTube again because there was this influencer that did that. They're going, I'm cancelling that particular person.
That makes sense.
So I think that's why it's fine for brands to trust content from Channel 4, ITV, Sky, etc. And I think if they started commissioning content that was questionable, then brands would move away from having their adverts around that content. I'll give you a good example. GB News.
Yep.
It's actually, from what I understand, the viewing figures are actually pretty good now because they've gone so shocking and they've just gone so kind of right wing that it's attracting people to watch, but they're not doing well commercially because brands don't want to be associated with that kind of content.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that actually. With streaming services, do you think that model is, do you think, because there was talk about Channel 4 being bought out and being sold, does something like Channel 4, does all sort of platforms, even like ITV, do they all have to go some sort of subscription base to survive in the way the industry is moving?
I'm not sure they have to. I think they all need to have some kind of VOD platform, which they do.
Right.
I'm not sure they have to go subscription. Channel 4, I think, have an optional subscription which takes the adverts off, but you can watch all of their content without it. ITVX, I believe there's some content that you can't watch unless you've got the subscription, but it seems to me that it will end up on ITVX eventually at some stage, that you'll be able to watch it for free at some stage. So, I mean, it's interesting. We'll have to see how the whole streaming wars play out. My prediction would be it can't sustain the amount of players that there are. People aren't going to subscribe to 10 different services, even though they're, what you get for a streaming service is pretty damn good, in my opinion. £10 a month, the amount of content that you can just watch, all of them are good value. But when you've got so many, you just kind of go, I haven't got that amount of time in the day to be able to watch all of these services, so I'm going to pick 2 max. Yeah. So I feel like there's going to be streaming services that are going to merge.
See, that's very interesting, because I do think subscription base are sort of good value. However, I'm looking at in terms of the BBC. The BBC, instead of calling it subscription, they call it license. So do you think the BBC would be more accepted in terms of people paying their license fee if they changed the name, rebranded and said, we're not charging you a license, we're charging you a subscription? Because it is about the same cost, I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
I think my license, I pay monthly or whatever, 13 quid or something like that. That's virtually the same price as Netflix.
Yep. So I'm a big supporter of the BBC, I guess, because I started my career there. That has a big impact on it. And I know there are a lot of people that are not a fan of the license fee and want to kind of abolish the license fee. I'm not one of them. I feel like the BBC provides a lot of things that other broadcasters, platforms don't provide. They do a lot of stuff that is never going to be commercially make sense commercially. Whether it's all the public service stuff from the news and some of the types of documentaries and programs they make. So I'm personally happy to pay the license fee. I think what we get from it is, and I see, working internationally, I see what a lot of other countries have, and I think we have to be proud of the BBC. Other countries would love to have the BBC. It's a bit like that National Health Service. Yeah. I just think, but we've got to fund it, because if we don't fund it properly, then it becomes an embarrassment and doesn't work the way it should do. So, yeah. I totally agree. I think we're only going to miss it when it's gone. Actually, that's one of the things I think I forgot to ask was, in terms of the show Traitors. Now, a lot of shows, they come on air and people watch and that's it. You have a show whereby there seems commercially there's quite a few different revenue streams. Can you talk about that? Yeah. So with the Traitors out now in time for Christmas, we've got a board game, a card game. We've even got Traitors cloaks, so for Halloween and for for Christmas, for whenever you can dress up like a traitor. We've got a book also, kind of like, you remember the old choose your own adventure kind of book, so you can kind of play the game and turn to whatever page to see if you can you can win. So that's kind of the stage one. Stage two, some more ambitious stuff. So we're going to open immersive experience. So a bit like how you can go and play the Crystal Maze, you'll be able to go to a location and play the Traitors. So that's something that's really exciting to work on. It's kind of like a big project.
So was that something what was always on the cards, or did all that come about from the success of the show, and then you thought about the other revenue streams?
Yeah, from the success of the show, because even if a show lends itself well to off-screen exploitation, if it's not a hit, if it hasn't got people behind it it will never make commercial sense. So it had to be a success first before we could really look into it. And then now we're looking at things like computer games. No one's going to make a computer game for a show because it's expensive. It's going to cost several $100,000 to develop that. So you're only going to do that if you feel like you've already got a fan base for the show. Do
you get commission on that?
No, not on the actual product. But I'm looked after. I'm not complaining.
Okay, so I know that Traitors is the main sort of body of work, or it's probably taking up most of your time. What other projects are you working on, or is your life pretty much now because of the success? Because of the success of Traitors, is that all you're focused on, or are you working on several projects at a time?
Yeah, I'm always juggling lots of projects. Traitors taking up a huge amount of my time, in a good way. Not complaining. It's great to have a show that's a success. But we've got so many shows in the catalogue, or we've got to be doing our best for each and every one of them, and always bringing new shows in as well. A new show that I'm really excited about has got the code name Alan Must Win, and it's a reality show, and all the cast are your kind of typical beautiful people that you'd expect to find on Love Island. They've all got the six-pack. They're all too cool for school. They're already local celebrities. Right. They've got kind of 20,000 followers on Instagram already. And there's one guy that's just a bit different. He's just normal. He's Alan. And what Alan and the other contestants don't know is that there's a bunch of celebrities watching on who are trying to manipulate things to make Alan win.
So wait a minute. So did we just get an exclusive?
Maybe. Depends when this goes out.
No, okay. So no, seriously, can I put this out, or is it okay? All right then. So I'll just do that again. So wait a minute. Did we just get an exclusive?
There you go. Sneak peek into what's coming up.
Perfect. Well, I think that's probably where we should wrap it up then. I don't think we should give them too much more.
No, I can't give any more.
Nick Smith, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Cheers.